Hello guys, welcome back to my channel. It's me UFO. This is yet another Arch Linux installation guide. Yes, I know, this is becoming pretty boring. I might say, well, not in this case. In today's video I want to show you how to install Arch Linux alongside Windows 10. How many of you wanted to install Arch Linux but never really wanted to, ditch completely Windows maybe for a short period of time, or maybe you don't have two drives to try it on? Well, no problem. In today's video I will show you how to install Arch Linux alongside Windows 10 on the same disk, maintaining both working Windows 10 and Arch Linux. So yeah, this is the beautiful text I made in Microsoft Paint. I know I'm very good at making art. I'm very talented, I might say. So yeah, let's cut with the stupid stuff and let's proceed with the installation. Of course, you will want to go in on the Arch Linux site, so it's archlinux.org. You click download and you click the ISO either via magnet link or you select the mirror that is closest to you. So if you are from Finland, download it from arch.mcstrux.org. If you are from France, download it from a French mirror. If you are from Germany, download it from a German mirror, of course. After you download your ISO, you will want to create a bootable USB. I suppose you already know how to do it, but if you don't know, download Rufus. It's this beautiful, fantastic, simple software on Windows that lets you create a bootable USB. You just put your pen drive in your computer. Rufus will automatically see the pen drive after you put the pen drive in the USB stick. You select the ISO. You click the GPT partition scheme because we will install this in UEFI GPT, no MBR, no BIOS mode. So this is UEFI GPT only. And after you created your USB stick with Rufus, before you power off your computer, you have to create some space. You have to assign, prepare some space for Arch, because for now there is no space on this disk for Arch Linux. So you can go and find via control panel, or you can search for disk management and this will open, for example, or you can click Windows R and search for disk mgmt.msc. This will open the same menu as before. In my case I have 100 gigs of Windows, so I will shrink this volume and I will shrink it like 50-50, you know what I mean? So like 50 gigs for Windows, 50 gigs for Linux. This is like the optimal case, right? So I shrinked the volume. I left 48.83 gigabytes for Arch Linux, and I will reboot my computer in my virtual machine. In your case, it will be your laptop, your desktop, whatever. You will reboot it and try to boot the USB stick you just created. You can do it from the BIOS boot order. You can do it via boot menu if your BIOS supports it. In my case, I already created a virtual DVD with the ISO on it, so I'm not going to plug any USB in the virtual machine because this is just for demonstrative reasons, right? So you will reboot your computer the normal way, restarting, blah blah blah. After Windows turns off, I don't know when. Oh, there it is. It was pretty quick. And your BIOS, your post will pop out on the screen. In my case, the boot menu is under escape because I'm using OVMF, so it's the Tiano Corp EFI for virtual machines, but apparently it's not working the way I wanted. So yeah, let's just force off the virtual machine, start it again. This time I hope it will pop up. Okay, so I will go into the boot manager, the boot menu, and I will start the USB. In your case, in my case, it's the virtual DVD slash virtual USB stick. Now, the typical usual Arch Linux installation process will begin. Nothing is, there are no differences between the normal installation and a DualBoot installation. There are only minor differences, and I will explain them throughout the installation. So I want you to see the whole installation a little bit better than usual. So I will start an SSH server on the virtual machine, and I will SSH to my virtual machine from my terminal. This way it's easier to read because I can resize the font. This way you don't have to look at this ugly window. So systemctl start sshd. This is the service for the SSH server. So now I will go on to my first workspace, and I will SSH into the virtual machine. Oh wait, I haven't created a password for my root user. So passwd something random SSH, and I can, I haven't even looked at the IP address. It's 106. There it is. Yes. Password, and this is our virtual machine. This is literally the same as this, but this window is supposedly easier for you to read because of YouTube compression, etc, etc. So we'll proceed with the usual typical installation. This is the GPG signature for verifying your ISO, etc, etc. This is the default keyboard layout. If you have a different layout, please set it right now so it will be easier for you to proceed with the installation. This is checking if we are in EFI mode, and we know we are, but we will check it for the sake of the installation. If there are files in this place, if this directory contains files, it means that we are in EFI mode. If this place doesn't have anything, if this directory is empty, it means that we are in BIOS or legacy mode. But in this case, yes, we are in UEFI mode, and we will proceed with the UEFI installation. IP link, this is for setting up your internet. Ping Arch Linux. In this case, I will ping a site here in Poland because I'm from Poland. So yes, we have internet. Great. Now we have to set the enable the NTP server, so the system clock will, we will ensure that the system clock is accurate, because if the time is not accurate, it's not very good for the installation. So time date ctl set ntp true, and we enable the NTP. The NTP is the the time protocol, the network time protocol that automatically sets the time via internet. So we will check our partitions. We can do it with fdisk, but I like lsblk because we don't need root for it. Even though we are logged on root, lsblk works even if you're not on the root user. So as you can see, we have 4 partitions already. We have this is like the Windows recovery partition. This is probably the EFI window partition, and this is very important because we will use the same EFI partition as Windows does. We won't make a new EFI partition. Both Arch Linux and Windows on this system will use this 100 megabytes partition. We won't create any new EFI partition. This is the Windows partition, and we know that we have like 50 almost gigs of free space. In this case, I want to use a different tool. Usually I use fdisk to create my partitions. Now I want to use cfdisk. Cfdisk is easier to use because it's almost it's a terminal user interface, so it has less commands and is more user friendly because you can just use your arrows and go left, right, up and down and create your partitions. In this case, in our installation, we will use a super simple setup like swap partition, root partition, and that's it. If you want a separate home partition, create it now. If you want a separate TMP, vars, user, whatever, if you want separate partitions for anything you want, do it right now. In this demonstrative video, I will make a super basic installation, so I will just create like 4 gigs of swap because this virtual machine has 4 gigs of RAM. So let's do it right now. 4G. So I created a 4 gigabyte partition for my swap, and the rest of the disk I will use it for the root partition. Nothing more, no additional partitions. New, enter, enter, that's it. I already created the partition. Let's change the type of the partition. This one will be the swap partition. Already swap partition. This will be the root partition. Type x86-64 because this is a 64-bit system. So right, yes, and I created my partition. Super easy. I really like this tool. I really like this CF disk. It's very nice. So we can quit CF disk with Ctrl+C. Let's clear the terminal. After we created the partitions, we have to create a file system on them, right? So the swap partition will be the swap type. Is the swap file system, whatever, let's call it the swap. We have to create the swap, so make swap, and I already forgot the partition, so let's check it quickly. lsblk, and it was the VDA5. It was my 5th partition on the VDA disk. So make swap dev VDA5. This is an important step. Please pay close attention to these numbers, because if by mistake you select the wrong partition, you may overwrite your Windows installation, and this, I suppose, it's not something you want if you have important data on it and you don't want to screw them and maybe lose important stuff and documents. So please pay close attention to the number of the partition. So I created the swap on my 5th partition and I want to enable it, so swap on dev VDA5, created the partition, enabled, created swap, enabled swap, and for the root partition make file system dot ext for mnt dev VDA, pardon, not mnt, dev VDA6. So I created the ext4 file system on my root partition. Now I have to mount my root partition. In my case, the root partition is the 6th partition. Pay close attention to the number, don't screw it up. Mount dev VDA6 on mnt. After I mounted my root partition, I want to create / mount any other additional partition I might have. So if you created an additional home partition, you want to create it with mkdir mnt home. You want to create it and mount it. If you created a separate user, a separate TMP, a separate var, a separate whatever, you want to create the mount point and mount it right now, but only after you mounted the root partition first. In my case, I don't have any other partition beside the EFI partition. Which mount point I will use? I could use boot EFI or just boot, but I want to use EFI, so I will create mkdir mnt EFI, and I will mount my EFI partition on this mount point. So let's list the partitions. This is the EFI partition, it's VDA2, so mount dev VDA2 mnt EFI. Great, so now I mounted my root partition, I enabled my swap, and I pretty much did everything. We can proceed with the rest of the installation. So it's the packstrap part. As you remember from my previous video, Now the kernel is not included anymore in the base package. The base package doesn't include the kernel anymore, so you have to install the kernel on your own, Linux firmware, etc, etc. So let's do it. Backstrap mnt base devil, because it has sudo inside, so it's comfortable to have Linux firmware. Let's say network manager, because I want it already. Vim, because it's my favorite text editor and I will use it later throughout the installation. And this is pretty much all I want for now. So I will just click enter and wait for the packstrap to finish. Something that I really appreciate from the last ISOs is that the Arch Linux guys included Reflector in the ISO. What is Reflector? Reflector is a pretty nice tool to refresh your mirrors. It's super nice. I use it all the time. I've been using it for years already. And the thing that they included it in the ISO, it's super nice. It means that when you boot your ISO, you have the best possible mirrors already. This way, you're not wasting time for the download process, because maybe you've picked some mirrors from Australia and you're from Germany, so the download is super slow. No, you get the best possible mirrors, the closest one to the place you live, and this way it takes only a few seconds / minutes to download the files. Of course, if your internet is slow, this won't change much. It won't make your internet faster. But if you have fast internet, let's say you have 100 megabits per second and you've picked the wrong mirrors that are very far away from you, your download speed will be much slower. So, while I was talking about Reflector, Packstrap finished doing his thing. So we can proceed. We have to generate the fs stub. So gen fs stub minus or dash capital U. Capital U stands for UUID. mnt atc fs stub. Gen fs stub mnt. Pardon. mnt atc fs stub. There it is. I created my fs stub. Now we can proceed with the usual chroot procedure. So arch chroot mnt. We are in the chroot session, and this is the time zone. I will copy the command and paste it in my terminal and just adapt it to my installation. So it's Europe because I'm from Europe, and Warsaw because it's the capital of Poland and I'm from Poland, so it's the logical choice. Enter. Next one is the hardware clock. There it is. Now the locales. We have to uncomment the locales we want in the atc locale.gen file. So vim atc locale gen. I want the usual, United States UTF-8 locale. I don't want anything else. It's just for the video purpose. Of course, if you want like Polish locales, you'll want to uncomment PL, so it will be PL_PL. Oh, there it is. Pardon, PL_PL. Let's say I will use the Polish ones, okay? I will use the Polish ones in this installation. So I will uncomment this, save it, locale gen, and I'm creating the Polish locales. So now I want to create the locale conf and set it accordingly to the locale gen file I just generated. So echo lang pl_pl.utf-8 in atc locale.conf. In atc locale.conf. conf. There it is, done. Now I want to set my hostname. Let's call it something nice. Let's call it like DualBoot. Yeah, let's call it DualBoot. Echo DualBoot ADC hostname. Done. Now we want to create this file. I will copy it just for the sake of this video. Of course, you cannot copy in your terminal, but if you also SSH like me and you're doing the installation maybe on your secondary laptop or secondary PC, you can also do it like me if you want, of course. Vim ADC hosts. I will just paste it there and change my hostname in my hostname, DualBoot, and also there DualBoot. Save the file. Okay. Now regenerating the initial RAM disk, we don't need it because we haven't done any LVM, system encryption, RAID, nothing of this. The password, passwd for the root account. Let's also create my user account already. So user add my -m. So for this option we'll create my home directory. So user add -m ufludek, and I will also add my user to the wheel group ag wheel ufludek. Now I will uncomment in vsudo the sudo configuration file. I will uncomment this line. It's the 82 line, 82nd line. I don't know what's the correct form in English. It's the line 82. Yeah, let's call it line 82. And I will uncomment this. This will that every user in the wheel group will have sudo permissions. That's pretty nice. No? Save the file. And now before we exit and reboot, we cannot forget about the most important part, our bootloader. In my case, I want to use, let's say, Grub. I really like Grub, and with Grub, it's easier to have a separate EFI mount point, because the bootloader I usually use, systemd-boot, doesn't support having EFI on EFI. It likes having the EFI files inside of boot. But in my case, I created EFI already, and I have my files, my EFI files in EFI. So I will use Grub in my case. So let's click Grub, EFI installation. We need Grub and EFI boot manager, and also something else. We need EFI, we need Grub for Grub, EFI boot manager because our system is in UEFI, and also OS prober. This will automatically find and add Windows as an entry to Grub. Yeah, very nifty tool. I really like it. So let's proceed with the installation. Now we installed the packages. We have to install Grub. I will copy this command for the sake of the video and remember to change your EFI directory. In my case, it's EFI. As I already said it few seconds ago, I created the EFI mount point and I mounted the EFI directory there. So now we just have to wait for the Grub installation to finish. It usually takes some seconds, maybe minutes. It depends on the system. It also depends on your disk. If you have like an NVMe super fast disk, of course it will be a lot faster than in this case, because I'm using a very old disk for this virtual machine, and of course it's not the fastest one. Maybe you have a faster one. I mean, of course you have something faster than this. This is just a virtual machine. Physical hardware is faster. So now after we installed Grub, or Grub, whatever, let's call it Grub. After we installed Grub, we have to make the Grub CFG. It's the Grub configuration file. There is a super nice command to automatically generate it. It's Grub make config and the output where. So boot Grub CFG. I will copy it for the sake of the video, paste it inside my terminal, inside my virtual machine, And as you can see, with OS Prober, it automatically found the Windows Boot Manager. That's super nice. So what else do we have to do? Nothing else. We already finished installing Arch Linux. Super simple, I told you. I can quit the chroot session. I can reboot my virtual machine. I can come back in on this workspace, and I will show you that now Rube will pop out. And we have both Windows and Arch. Let's boot into Arch first, because I want to show you that this is indeed installed. So ufludec. I don't know if I created a password for it. I think I forgot to create a password for my user. Yeah, that might be the case. Let's log in as root. Let's give my user a password. So passwd ufludec and the password I want. As you can see, it's Polish in right now. Yeah, kinda. This is because I changed the locales in the Polish ones. Let's quit this. Log in as my user. Whatever. Enable network manager to see if internet is working. So system ctl enable network manager. And the same thing, but with start. And let's ping a site and see if we have internet. Yes, we have internet. It's working perfectly. Now I could even install some super simple graphical interface and show you that it is indeed working. I could do it. Let's do it. Yeah, let's do it. pacman-s. Let's install something super simple. Sway. Let's install Sway, Firefox, Alacrity, and Mesa, the drivers. That's pretty much it. Sudo bang bang. This repeats the last command, but with sudo in front of it. If you often forget about sudo in front of commands, sudo bang bang will save you a lot of time, because you don't have to rewrite or edit the previous command. You just do sudo bang bang and it automatically puts sudo in front of your previous command. That's pretty nice. Now we're just waiting for the packages to install. I don't know if I also have to install X. I think I have to install X anyway, because Wayland can't just works on its own right now. Let's check it out very quickly. Let's see if it will start. Sway. Yes, it started, guys. So as you can see, we have a interface. Let's start the terminal. We can ping google.com. Oh, pardon me, it's not Google, it's google.com. We have internet. Let's start Firefox, and Firefox maybe doesn't support Wayland, so I think we have to also install Xorg. Sudo bang bang. Yes, whatever. I don't care. Install whatever you want. And let's also install whatever. You will figure it on your own after the installation. Firefox. Yeah, there might be some problem. I'd have to check it out later. But as you can see, it works. Arch works. You have just to continue from this point on. You will install your graphical interface, your desktop environment. You can install GNOME, you can install XFCE, you can install KDE Plasma, you can install whatever you want. You can change the display manager, you can install GNOME display manager, whatever. It's Arch Linux, you have the freedom of choice, you can choose whatever you want. Now the most important thing, is Windows 10 still working? Let's check it out really quickly. We are just waiting for grub to pop out. Windows Boot Manager. Let's see if it's working. So there are the spinning magical dots of Windows 10. So apparently it's booting. And we have the cursor of Windows 10. And yes, we are back on Windows 10, guys. So yes, this is all I wanted to show you in this video. I hope you enjoyed the video, because I made the video, it wasn't super, you know, specific, because I went through the video pretty quickly, kinda, but I hope this video helps you understand that installing Arch Linux alongside Windows 10, it's not hard, it's extremely simple. It's super easy. There are only few things you have to remember, like you have to use the same EFI partition, and you have to take in consideration not to, you know, screw up your previous partitions, because if you screw up your Windows partitions, you might, you know, lose data because you're overwriting, you know, data on your Windows partitions, and you may have something important there. So pay close attention during the installation on the partitions. Which number are you selecting, which partition are you working on. So yeah, this is all I wanted to show you in this video. I hope you enjoyed this video. Let's make something nice for you. Like how do I use this? I will make a heart for you. Oh, there it is. And like this, like thank you very much for watching. I hope you have a nice day. We'll see each other in my next video, guys. Bye bye. Yes, this is the stuff I usually say at the end of videos. So yeah, this is literally all I wanted to show you in this video. I hope you have a nice day. I hope you manage to install Arch Linux alongside Windows 10, and we'll see each other in my next video. Bye bye.